Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Feeling and Healing podcast. I am your host, Danielle Z, MFT in the making, motivator, and mental health maven. And today I am so happy to welcome Michelle Steiner. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi.
Michelle she does it all, everybody. She was diagnosed with a learning disability, which we will talk about. She is a writer, a speaker, photographer. She has a blog. She's a one-woman show over here. So, thank you so much for joining me, Michelle. And I guess how I'd like to start off the conversation is I'm sure, being diagnosed with a learning disability that was, that made an impact on you, but how were you able to kind of overcome that? I'll use the term stigma if that's how you feel about it, and build kind of the life you have today and your career and your mission.
Right. That overcoming the stigma of having a learning disability was such a process for me. I mean, I went through a lot of years of school, was struggling socially and academically, and even in college. I had a lot of people
Hmm.
that had a lot of stigma with that. And I really don't think that a lot of that broke until I was close to 30. And I was at university and I was ready to graduate, and I
Hmm.
got my bachelor's degree, and I was told that I could never do that. And after that point, that's when the stigma was that was when a lot of that started to break.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure too. I mean, I don't know how you are, but I feel like I love when people tell me I can't do something because then I'm like, oh, watch me. I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, somebody's like, oh, but you can't do that. I'm like, I can't. Like, it's almost like a challenge. It's almost like a weird challenge to me. Of course, like within reason, right? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? I'm not gonna go to the extremes. But yeah, what that fire in you when they told you like, oh, you won't have a bachelor's degree, like what kind of lit that fire in you to keep going after that?
One of the things was I knew what I wanted to do, but I was always afraid. I was always the kind that was going in and doing this stuff, but I just had this fear that I was never going to be able to make to do that.
Yeah.
But I also was really blessed to have support with a lot of family and friends. Excuse me. I had a mom and a dad who never gave up on me.
I
From
love
the time
that.
I was very small,
That's
they
amazing.
advocated for me. We spent a lot of long, tearful homework sessions together.
Aw.
I had my friends, they couldn't fix that I had a learning disability, but they could certainly make me laugh, and we could go and hang out, and I had that support. So I think a lot of that was key. And one of the big things was finding ways around what I could do.
Hmm.
Because I mean, there's always going to be things that are really difficult for me to do. I'm not
Absolutely.
going to be able
Yeah.
to, yeah, I can't do math. I'm also not able to drive. But when I focus on those things that I love doing, like photography or reading or writing, I don't feel like I'm disabled. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
happy. I feel empowered. So I knew what the alternative would have been for me. It would have been maybe going and working in a store, cleaning up, maybe stocking shelves, which these are not bad jobs to have at all.
Yeah.
But I knew they would be harder for me. And I also knew it's just that was not what I chose for my life's purpose. So I said, I want to at least try. And
Yeah.
to my surprise, I was able to do a lot of that. It was a struggle, but I was able to do it. And when I graduated, this was another big thing. My disability didn't go away, but I
Yeah.
had
Oh
this
yeah, yeah. It's
advance.
with you. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, it'll be with you for the rest of your life, unfortunately. Yeah.
right. But I used to think I'll have success, I'll have happiness when that goes away. But when I graduated, it didn't go away, but I was still happy. I was still successful, and I still felt fulfilled. And that was what gave me that drive to be able to go out and want to help other people.
I think that is like a beautiful. I always say to people like with your story, other people that I know have like, been hurt, like I always say like of course like everybody we don't nobody goes through this life like unscathed. We all I feel like have our emotional wounds that we get throughout our
Yes.
life, but I think it's amazing that you took something that could have like really unfortunate like I think as a mental health professional like it really could have like crippled you throughout your whole life like emotionally and mentally
Yes.
but you turned it into your purpose.
Exactly. That is something that I turned into that. And what I found as the older I got too, it wasn't about curing it. It was like, oh, I need to be a creative problem solver. So if I can't tell time on the face of a clock, I can use my Fitbit. I can use my phone.
Mhm.
And I
Yes,
think
you can
that
use
was,
different app. Yeah.
yeah. And I think just whatever came up, I had to learn how to solve what the issue was. And I think that is one of the things that was helpful too.
Yeah, I think too, and as you know, being like a writer, a creator, when you're
Hmm.
putting yourself out there, like, I mean, even me as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a therapist in training, like, as
Hmm.
you know, like, I'm a lot of things too. I think having that as you like that problem solving
Yep.
mindset and mental agility to like be able to
Hmm.
pivot. You know what I mean? Like I tell this to everybody, like, and I'm sure you know too, entrepreneurship is just a series of failures. And us as entrepreneurs, we are just less afraid of failure. Like I actually like I mean, when I was younger, I was like, conditioned to think, oh, you failed, you failed. But
Hmm.
no, like I actually like I'm like, it's not a failure. It's like, I think there's like, what is it? Thomas Edison has that quote. It's like, I didn't like, when he made the light bulb, he's like, he's like, I didn't fail at creating a light bulb. I just found 99 different ways not to make one, like, so I love that. I
Right.
love that like mental, that mentality that you had, and that really shows how, you were able to empower yourself instead of like you because I think of it once again as being a mental health professional. You could really have had your learning disability define your identity, and you didn't, and you were like, nope, like I'm Michelle, I'm not X disability.
Exactly. It's a part of who I am, but yep, it's not my whole self.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. Oh, that's because so you just like hit a chord with me because that's my whole pun intended when I work with my clients is to, and I always tell them too. It's like because sometimes people come to me and they're, like they have this limiting belief that they're broken, and I'm like, no, like none of us are broken. We are all like
Right.
beautiful, whole as we are. Like I just help bring that out in you, because we all have
Right.
it inside of us, whether and sometimes and I love that too that you mentioned too the support of family and friends, because
Yeah.
having I mean this, and even in my life, right? Having a good support system is so important. And sometimes like it's okay like to ask for help, to ask for support. I think we live in a society that we're all so like, oh, I do and it's like, no, it's okay to ask for help.
Right, exactly. It's all right to be able to ask for that kind of support because that is something that really does connect people and everybody does need some kind of help and some sort of support. I know with not driving, that is a big thing too, because that's where I made a lot of my decisions. I knew I had to pick a house that where I was going to
Yep,
live at that was close to things that I wanted to get to, because if I
absolutely.
lived out of way, I wouldn't be able to take myself places. But I'm really
Yep.
blessed though. My husband takes me to work during the day
Oh,
and drops me
yeah, that's
off, and
good.
I have a great coworker that takes me home at the end. And if I'm not able to get a ride home, or if for some reason we're not able to get a ride to work,
Mhm.
I'm able to walk. So I think it's having those
Oh,
options,
that's great. Yeah.
but it's also
Yes.
knowing it's okay to ask for help. If I know that I need something, that's okay too.
Yeah, no, and I think you just said too, like knowing that it's okay to need
Yeah.
that. Like for instance, like let's just I'll just use it for instance in your specific example is like, yeah, you could, let's say it's raining, right? And like,
Yeah,
like you could walk to work, but might be not the most comfortable experience, you know what I mean? So you might want
exactly.
to have your husband drop you off. So it's not, and so it's, and also too, I think and I had to do a lot of work with my own therapist of like even asking for help in my own mental health journey, that like I'm not a burden to anybody. Like the people that
Yes.
love you and support and want to support you, they don't mind helping you because they love you.
Yes, that's true. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also too mentioned your parents, which you had clearly you had amazing parents that,
Hmm.
supported you and helped you along the way with your disability. But I'm sure that was also, I can imagine, challenging for because they had to probably give you a lot of extra support, with I think it was like spending hours for homework.
Exactly. It was hard for them to be able to understand too. I mean, my dad was really good at math and they didn't know much about learning disabilities. And so it was a
Hmm.
learning curve for them. I had to do the best I could do, but they did the best that they could. And that was one of the things they always wanted me to try. They didn't want me to use it as an excuse not to be successful. So they spent the time going over the homework with me and studying
Yeah.
and they still made me go to school, even if I was having trouble with my peers, or if I wasn't going to do well in a class, or I was not going to
Hmm.
do well on a test. They still made me go to school, but I just had to try. And I think that was the big thing too. And as a teenager, they were also great about giving me rides to activities
Yeah.
outside of school, and that was really key too. I mean, I was also involved with things that were outside of our district, so my mom and dad would take me, and then eventually I started hanging out with a writing group for adults, and they became like my friends because I was having hard time at my school with being bullied and everything. But it never,
Yeah.
so people look
Oh, I'm
back
sorry
and
to hear
say,
that.
don't you feel bad about not being able to drive when you were a teenager? And I'm like, I really didn't miss out on much between my parents and having friends who were just a few years older than I was. I really didn't miss out on that. And it was really some of my peers that were saying, aren't you driving yet? Were the ones that were asking that.
Yeah. Oh, and honestly, I hate to say it, from a car owner and a driver, you probably
Uh-huh.
lucked out because cars, they just cost money. It's like gas and
Exactly.
maintenance
Yep.
and,
Hmm.
and just they're big money pits. So you actually are probably saving money, not to
Right.
like,
But not,
make it to keep it light. You know what I mean? Like like, and you're not, I'm sure you're being very gracious and very,
right.
appreciative, but you're actually like probably saving a big headache because that car is not always fun to have.
Exactly. I know we have the one vehicle. All we need is a small vehicle, and there's room for two in our driveway, and then we have parking out back. And we've told the neighbors, you can park back there. I mean,
Yeah.
unless they're doing something
Yeah,
like on
yeah,
our
we don't
street,
need the
and
extra
that,
spot.
so it turns out to be a blessing to other people as well.
Exactly. Oh, I just love your whole like attitude, your light, that you yeah, as I said, you just have the courage to walk through this world. But I would love to also talk to you about, because I know when we first spoke, you mentioned this, that like how did kind of the limiting belief or like the thought of like I'm not good enough show up in your journey?
It's the limiting belief really showed up young. I can remember just really
Mm.
struggling when I was in kindergarten to write, to be able to count, tie my shoes. And I didn't think I could do any
Yeah.
of that. And that was a concern with my teachers, especially after I was diagnosed. They did not want me to develop learned helplessness. I can remember they put on one of my reports
Mm.
that I didn't think I could do something, and then would do it, and I would surprise myself. And they said, we have to encourage Michelle to be
Yeah.
doing um, things on her own. So that was one of the things the school really looked to do was what I was good at and what I could do. But it started very young because I compared myself, of course, to my peers. They seemed to have a really easy time learning. And it was even hard for me when I was in learning support because a lot of my peers, they struggle more with reading, not with math, and some of them had behavior issues. So I
Hmm.
still got picked on then. And I didn't think that I was good at a lot of things. And until my dad found a story about a dinosaur that I wrote in second or third grade. And he said, this is
Wow.
good. And that just changed my beliefs because up until that point, I didn't think I
I
was good
love
at
that.
anything. I didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I had any talent. I would try things and I just wasn't successful at that. And then reading and writing became my world and really was uh,
Mm.
something that helped
That
me when I
opened up
was,
your whole, yeah, a whole
yeah.
different space for you.
And when I finally got that courage to write about having a learning disability, like I was suggested to do for uh, my writing group,
Hmm.
that was one of the most healing things that I've ever done. And it gave me that voice and I could
Yeah.
say what I was feeling. And I didn't, I didn't have that fear about saying something to somebody. And I could finally make peace with a lot of situations that happened in my life with other
Mhm.
people
Yes.
by using them in a story. And
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
even matter if it got published or it didn't. It
Or you
was,
just wrote it for your, yeah, for yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was one of the most healing things I did as well too. And then I could finally, I know with one person in particular, I was so glad that I did that because the last couple years on earth we had a good relationship, and I was able to go to that funeral and I didn't have regret. And I think that that was so
Mhm.
powerful with that.
Yeah, no, living without, yeah, regret. I always say like, that's why like I don't know where, like when my my time on this earth is going to end, but I would say like I similar to you,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I kind of live my life. Like, yes, of course I want to know that like there's nothing that I didn't do or people didn't know that
Right,
they like, you know what I mean? That people knew that I loved them. Like that
right.
to me matters more to me, the impact I make on people versus
Excuse
like,
me. Mhm.
because we're all, let's be honest, we're all going to the same place. We can't bring our stuff with us. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I just want to, and of course I need to like live and pay bills, but like at the end of the
Yes.
day, like relationships, what, creating, you're creating
Hmm.
like, photography, art, your mission, your general mission is inspiring so many other people. And also too, I would love you to talk about that. How many people have maybe like come up to you or in like, in your maybe in your writers group or in, maybe just in other areas where they're like, wow, like like you like me too. Like we
Right.
really like hit a chord with what you were talking about or what you were writing about.
One of the first times I went to a writing group and I talked about having a learning disability, and it's estimated that 1 in 5 people have a learning disability.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
when they went,
20% of the population. Yeah.
yeah. So when they went around the room, like afterwards, they gave their feedback, I
Mm-hmm.
counted, and it was 1 in 5 that were saying, I have a learning disability too. So that was one of my
Wow.
first
Like,
realizations that this is real for other people. And that was a couple years before I started my blog. And
mm-hmm.
after I started the blog, I would have people, well, when I got the first article published, I had people saying, well, that's my story. Or
I
I
love
thought I was the only one that struggled with that. Sometimes I get people that will say that because they think they're the only ones that have that. And it's not true. There's a lot of other people that do. So sometimes I hear a lot of that. A lot of times I might hear, well, I definitely, this is my experience, or I felt this way too. And I
it.
think that is really just one of those things that just makes me feel like I'm not alone and I'm helping
Hmm.
other people by sharing my story. And that lets other people be brave and vulnerable, and they can share about their story as well.
No, I love that you're creating that safe space for vulnerability and also for people to be seen and also to community because I also think as human beings like we're just
Mhm.
wired and we're designed to want to connect
Right.
with others. And yes,
Yes.
I'm not, and because of I'm seeing this from a mental health perspective, but also from my coaching perspective, I try to also, and it's hard to do in therapy with
Mhm.
therapist clients, but with my coaching clients, I do try to build group coaching and community to be like, you're not the only one going through this, or you're not the only
Yes.
one having this challenge. Because I think it does get sometimes it does get a little isolating.
Yes.
When you're
Hmm.
on this journey and you're like even just your journey of healing like just in general whatever you're healing from, right? It could be from
Right.
trauma, it could be from anything, a grief, a death, it could be from
Hmm.
your learning disability, it could be anything. And I think people have to realize that like I would say like once you get into like the healing world that like all of us really are pretty much healing our whole entire lives.
Exactly. We're all healing from something. We all have something that, yeah, definitely we're doing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And what I guess I know what you said like writing because I will share with you that similar to you, I think just I don't write for
Hmm.
like public I'm not published yet. But
Okay.
so I'll add that yet in there because I actually have been approached by people to like self-publish a book, and I'm like add it to the long so many list of things that I need to do. But I do eventually one day do want to like write a book, but what I guess like other than just like your writing group and kind of like your
Mhm.
what kind of writing do you do? Like more creative writing? Because I do a lot of journaling. That
Right.
helps me process.
I do a lot of creative nonfiction. So I
Okay.
will write about just my life with having a learning disability, and I'll do it with doing nature analogies a lot. And sometimes I'll do my photography. So I'm really, I might talk, since I love flowers, and I'll go and I'll take a picture
Yeah.
of a flower on my walk because I get to notice the details that other people miss. So I might write about the thorns of having a disability, or I love butterflies. So
Hmm.
I might write about the transformation process that a butterfly goes through and how I've transformed with my disability. And that is one of those things that I choose to do. Um, and there's a lot of great places to get published or different calls. If you go on Curiosity Never Killed the Writer, they have a whole list every month of different places. The Mighty is where I got started at, and that is for people with disabilities and other health conditions to be able to tell their story. And that's another way. There's a lot of other publications that are out there that you can submit to.
That's amazing. And I love to, and the theme that I'm finding with you with your photography is you
Mhm.
are a creative. And I think that is beautiful because I consider myself a creative as well. And that
Mhm.
is so it that just creating and
Yep,
putting something out in the world is that process, that creative process I find very healing as well.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, this has been such an amazing conversation, and thank you so much for just being so vulnerable and sharing your story with the world because it is an important story, and I'm so happy that I was able to give you yet another platform for you to share it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Well, for those of you, this episode will be on my Feeling and Healing YouTube channel and also published on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Thanks, everyone.